Hi everyone. So today's chat is all about prebiotics. So you may have heard about prebiotics. They are all the rage at the moment. So I thought today I would cover what they are and why they're so trendy, and also why they're so important to our health and where you can get them from. So you should have heard of the term probiotic. Probiotic is a bacteria or even a yeast that's considered beneficial to a host, us. I'll explain how probiotics work another time. They're a fascinating subject. But prebiotics are the thing that kind of comes before that. So there's been lots of definitions for prebiotics way back since about 1995. And it changes every so often. The definition changes, and that's because our current knowledge of prebiotics and how they work keep changing. So the current definition of a prebiotic is a non-digestible compound that, through its metabolization by microorganisms in the gut, modulates the composition and or activity of the gut microbiota, thus conferring a beneficial physiologic effect on the host. Not easy to say, not easy to understand, but in essence, a prebiotic is a non-digestible fiber. It means it goes through us, we don't absorb it. It promotes the growth of beneficial microorganisms in the intestines and encourages the production of specific compounds that are beneficial to health. So basically, it's a form of fiber, plants, fermented by our gut bacteria in particular, and as a result of that fermentation process, specific compounds are made. Those compounds are called short-chain fatty acids, and they are beneficial to our health. So there's been quite a bit of research. The research is growing all the time, but there are some main health benefits. And number one, it increases specific bacteria in our gut, and in particular bifidobacteria and lactobacilli, which are families. There's lots of different bacteria within those families, and these are bacteria that live in our gut. They're considered kind of key bacteria. They're really, really important for our gut health. So we get them as probiotics, but they also live in our gut normally. And they're really beneficial. So for example, lactobacilli reduces inflammation in the gut lining. It can help with the digestion of lactose, dairy sugar. It can alleviate constipation, and it's been shown to improve irritable bowel syndrome type symptoms. And also potentially can prevent traveler's diarrhea. Bifidobacteria, remember these are families, so there's lots of different types of bacteria within those families. Also reduces inflammation and also reduces IBS type symptoms too. Now, the researchers don't know what the mechanism is, the processes are specifically, but we do know that these are key species in our gut, and they make these short-chain fatty acids, which are particularly beneficial to our health. And when we have low amounts of bifidobacteria and low amounts of lactobacilli, we're much more at risk of having quite a few different types of diseases and health conditions as well. So definitely more to be learnt, but we know that prebiotics basically help to increase these specific health beneficial gut bacteria. The other thing is prebiotics. Without prebiotics, we would then struggle to make these short-chain fatty acids. Now, fiber is a type of prebiotic, but there are specific prebiotic chemicals that we know are really beneficial. So what happens is the bacteria ferment these prebiotic foods, and as a result, short-chain fatty acids are made by the bacteria. And in particular, we've got acetate, propionate, and butyrate. They're the three main forms of short-chain fatty acids. They represent up to 95% of all short-chain fatty acids produced in our colon, our large intestine. And they're really important for health. They're important for the health of our colon cells. They're important because they actually make sure that our colon stays slightly acidic and stable, and in doing that, it can help prevent inflammation. It can help prevent infections from other pathogenic bacteria. It's also, the short-chain fatty acids also have been shown to prevent inflammatory bowel disease and also certain cancers, in particular colorectal cancer. So it's really, really important. The next thing they're finding, and this is again an area where more research needs to be done, we absorb some calcium, we absorb calcium in our colon, and studies have shown that an increase in the intake of prebiotics actually can increase the absorption of calcium. So that's really important to prevent osteoporosis in our later years. And they think that's because of the fermentation and the production of acid from the short chain fatty acids. Now, a lot of the studies, sometimes the results weren't as great as others. And that's because it's possible that the age of the person being tested can make a difference, whether you're an older woman with osteoporosis or whether you're a young woman that doesn't have osteoporosis yet, might make a difference between whether you absorb the calcium more or not. The dose, how much prebiotic you have, and also the type of prebiotic can change the results. So we know that it seems to increase the absorption of calcium, but there's still so much more we need to know. There's also been some studies to show that it might be able to help increase the absorption of magnesium and possibly iron. So watch this space. We know that the production of short chain fatty acids as a result of prebiotics also decreases protein fermentation. So proteins will be fermented when carbohydrates are not being fermented. And lots of protein fermentation in the gut can actually create substances that are considered to be quite toxic to the body and quite acidic to the body. So prebiotics can reduce that effect. Also, because of prebiotics being fermented by our good bacteria, it increases our good bacteria, and our good bacteria make these short chain fatty acids. That also can stop specific pathogens like E. coli, Salmonella, Campylobacter, and some others from actually taking up residence and causing infection in our large intestine as well. And that's because the short chain fatty acids keep the environment acidic, and pathogenic bacteria don't like acidic environments. What it also means is that it will stop the bacteria from fueling themselves so that they survive. The short chain fatty acids enhance our immune system and also encourage the substances, the production of substances that kill the bacteria. It's also how probiotics work in some ways too. It can decrease the risk of allergy. So because these prebiotics are kind of really beneficial for our bifidobacteria and lactobacilli type bacteria, that increases them. And we know that when there are low amounts of bifidobacteria and lactobacilli, you're much more at risk of getting allergic reactions, especially eczema and also rhinoconjunctivitis. So rhino being nose and conjunctivitis being inflammation of the eye, the conjunctiva. So prebiotics will increase the bacteria that will prevent or reduce the risk of allergy. The other thing that's really important is the way that prebiotics can indirectly affect the health of our gut lining. So our gut lining is a bit like, it's kind of got these gates, and we have cells, they're called epithelial cells. They form a barrier to the outside world. It prevents the outside world from going into our bloodstream and causing all sorts of problems. So we have a barrier that's made up of these epithelial cells, and we also have what's called a mucin layer. We actually have two mucin layers, and that forms a gel-like substance, the mucus, that stops pathogenic bacteria or substances. Sometimes bacteria have a substance on the outside called an LPS, and that's hugely inflammatory to our body. It stops that from crossing over through the gut barrier, the gut lining, into our bloodstream. If it enters the bloodstream, it can cause all sorts of inflammatory responses. So this is kind of called leaky gut, when the barrier isn't as strong as it should be. Now, we have leaky gut all of the time. Certain foods, basically what they have, if we have something called tight junctions, and they work a bit like a swing gate, and there are specific proteins that open or close these tight junctions. And this happens all the time. So we'll open our gate first when we have specific foods. So certain foods will encourage the opening of the gate, certain foods will encourage the closing. And when we're really stressed, the gates open so that we get more nutrients in our body so we can cope with the stress. So chronic stress is going to encourage the opening, that leaky gut. But it's usually when there's severe inflammation in our gut, it means that the gates don't shut properly, they don't close tightly, and therefore substances that shouldn't cross are crossing over, and it's because that swing gate doesn't shut quite as tightly as it should, and that's usually when there's severe inflammation. So when we have prebiotics in our diet, the bacteria feed on the prebiotics, they make the short-chain fatty acids, and the short-chain fatty acids improve the barrier function. They tighten up those tight junctions so the gates don't open all the time, and they actually decrease inflammation. So if you've got any kind of gut inflammation, IBS type symptoms, food intolerances or allergies, inflammatory bowel disease, then this is when prebiotics are really important, because they'll actually help to reduce the inflammation and stop that leaky gut from happening. A lot of leaky gut, when we've got that leaky gut, because we've got gut inflammation, we're much more likely to then have these inflammatory substances in our bloodstream, which then heighten our immune response. We know that some of these substances like LPS can go to our brain and create brain inflammation, and that's been linked to mental health conditions as well. So prebiotics are really, really important, not just for our gut health, but also for our mental health, for joint pain, for inflammation in other parts of our body too. Prebiotics indirectly, in the same way that I've just talked about, improve our immune system defense. So a large part of our immune system is actually found in our gut. It's an amazing part of our immune system, really important defense system. And our immune system, or our immune cells, are actually influenced by these short-chain fatty acids, especially butyrate. So butyrate talks to our immune cells. Now, we don't, again, know the mechanisms. They're not fully understood, other than we know that some form of communication is going on. And any kind of immune response that starts in the gut, which is, apart from our skin, a really important part of our immune system, it then has the potential to affect immune responses at other places where we have a mucosal lining, such as the respiratory system, which I talked about previously, and also our urinary genital system. So anything to do with your bladder and your urethra, your urinary system, and the vagina. Again, mucosal surfaces that is part of our immune system. So again, that prebiotics really important for the eventual production of these short-chain fatty acids that make such a difference. And again, the same pattern has happened with prebiotics and these short-chain fatty acids in reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease, and also reducing the risk of obesity and diabetes. So huge amount of effects, and research is only just starting to really blow up, really. So where do you get prebiotics from? Well, lots of foods now will add prebiotics to them. It's kind of, you see probiotics and prebiotics added to porridge and muesli bars and all sorts of things. You'll see probiotic supplements also now are starting to add prebiotic ingredients, with the idea that the prebiotic, whatever it is, the prebiotic ingredients will then be able to be used by the probiotics and help them kind of survive while they're there. And also it'll be feeding the good bacteria that's already in your gut. So things like inulin, oligofructose or fructooligosaccharides, FOS, galacto-oligosaccharides, GOS, lactulose guar gum. You might see those on an ingredient list, and they are prebiotics. Now, we can also get them from food. So beta-glucans is a type of prebiotic, and that's found in oats, barley, mushrooms, algae, seaweed. Inulin, and again, these fructooligosaccharides is FOS or FOS. Chicory root is rich in inulin, in particular. Garlic, leeks, onions, dandelion leaves, general greens, asparagus, bananas, barley, wheat bran, honey, rye, tomato, burdock root, all really rich forms of inulin and FOS. You have something called resistant starch, which is another type of fiber, and that's cooked and cooled potato. So if you have like a potato salad, then that can be almost like a type of prebiotic. Cooked and cooled rice, so like a rice salad, again, can be it's a type of resistant starch, so it's a type of prebiotic. Unripe bananas, cashew nuts, lentils are all really important prebiotics. There's another group of prebiotics that are called polyphenols, and these are found in our coloured fruit and veg. Berries are really rich in polyphenols. So your strawberries, your blackberries, your boysenberries, your blueberries, your gut loves them, and they are considered to be prebiotic foods because the gut bacteria will ferment those. Anything that's a stone fruit, so your nectarines and your peaches, cocoa, your hot chocolate. So if you're having raw cacao or cocoa, that's considered to be a prebiotic. Chocolate is a prebiotic, good excuse to have some nice chocolate. Then there's some other types of prebiotic foods as well. So kiwi fruit, beetroot, fennel bulb, snow pea, sweet corn, Savoy cabbage, chickpeas, red kidney beans, soybeans, cashews, pistachios, and konjac root, all really, really good forms of prebiotic foods. So my top tip to you would be, have a look at your diet. Have a look at the list of foods. If you go to my blog, you'll actually see them all written down. And make sure you're eating lots of prebiotic foods every single day. Mix them up because different bacteria like different types of prebiotic food, so it's really important you're getting a variety, but try and get as much in and a variety over your week. You can also buy prebiotic supplements, so it will be something with inulin in or other types of prebiotic foods. PHGG, I think, is I've said that right. Have a look and you'll see that can be really beneficial as well. If you don't think you're getting enough plants in your diet, then you can have a prebiotic supplement. I think sometimes prebiotic supplements can be better than probiotic supplements, but you have to start small. So whether you don't have a huge amount of veggies or plants in your diet and you want to start adding them in, it's always better to maybe start small and work your way up, because if you eat too many veggies too quickly, or too many fiber-rich foods too quickly, or too many prebiotic-rich foods too quickly, you can get bloating and gas and be quite uncomfortable. The same thing with a prebiotic supplement. Start very, very small and then work your way up. And it's always better to try and improve your diet as much as possible and get your prebiotic foods in your diet as much as possible before you then start adding the prebiotic powder or supplement. But definitely consider it. And if you want to know more about prebiotics, if you want to know which ones are better for you, if you want to talk to me about how you can start bringing prebiotic powders or food in your diet, contact me at sarah@sarahbrenchley.com. I'd love to help you. All right, let me know what you think. Let me know if you've got any questions. I'll see you soon.